Fargo, the new virtual assistant from Wells Fargo, makes banking faster and easier. Like this.
Fargo, what's my checking account routing number?
And this.
Fargo, turn off my debit card.
And this.
Fargo, what did I spend on groceries last month?
And that's just the beginning. Do you, Fargo? You can. In the Wells Fargo mobile app. Learn more at wellsfargo.com/getfargo.
Terms and conditions apply. Your mobile carrier's availability and message and data rates may apply. Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.
Hello and welcome to the Fasting Focused Lifestyle Podcast, episode 14. This is so exciting. We get to do another fasting spotlight with a fellow fasting friend of mine. His name is Ryan and local Floridian, right? Local Floridian?
Absolutely.
Oh, this is so exciting. We're going to be talking about Ryan's story, his struggles, methods, tips, his journey along the way. It's going to be a great story and I can't wait for you to hear about it, so stay tuned. Welcome to the Fasting Focused Lifestyle Podcast, where each week I will be discussing all things fasting and how it can become the most valuable tool in your personal toolkit so that you can live a long, healthy, and meaningful life. I'm your host, Vicki Sharon, and thank you for joining me. All right, welcome. So Ryan, this is so exciting. Fellow Floridian and fellow faster, fellow healthy wage winner, intermittent faster, lifestyle, fasting lifestyle. This is just so exciting. I'm like reeling in the feels already. So we're going to be talking about your journey, your story, your struggles, your method, all that along the way. So thank you first and foremost for joining me on this. It's a real pleasure. I like, as much as folks get the benefit out of this, like this is truly just uniting the community and bringing folks together. Again, showing like a male's perspective, I think is incredibly refreshing and exciting as well. So Ryan, I'm going to give it to you. So go ahead.
Hey, well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me on. I'm very excited to be here and kind of share my story and kind of talk back and forth. I know, you surround yourself with like-minded people, and that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to today is, I love talking about fasting because like you, it has changed my life. And, it's kind of one of those things that it's hard not to share when something has done so much good for you. So I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So I'm going to have you go ahead and start with your story, your backstory before you found fasting. What were things like?
Yeah, so my weight is something that I have kind of always struggled with. I was always bigger growing up. I have a family of larger people. Now, I have a very big family. My dad is one of 15 kids. And of those 15 kids, I think probably 6 or 7 of them got the gastric bypass surgery. My mom was growing up. She was overweight. So it's something that ran in my family. I was big growing up. And I remember when I was in the 5th grade. Now, my dad, he was on the skinnier side. He was in the Army. But I remember when I was in the 5th grade, I used to wear his Army clothes all around. But at that time, I popped the buttons on one of his pants.
Oh, no.
So in the 5th grade, I was bigger than my dad was in the waist.
Wow.
So I have always kind of struggled with my weight. Now, going on in high school, I kind of got a little more active. I played some soccer, kind of went up and down. And I always wanted to join the Army, ever since I was a kid. I was wearing his stuff, playing soldier. So the desire to get into the Army kind of forced me to kind of get in shape. And I remember when I was in high school, I was going to UCF for the ROTC scholarship. And when I went there, you have to take a PT test for the Army. And I did the push-ups and the sit-ups, but I failed the 2-mile run. And they're like, hey, listen, you have the scholarship. You just have to pass this 2-mile run. I think it was 2 miles in like 16 minutes. So I went home every day and ran until I was able to pass it. Went to UCF on an ROTC scholarship, joined the Army. And that, I always say, kind of helped me stay in shape because I had to, right? My livelihood depended on it. But inside, I always struggled with my weight. And I think on my first deployment is when I think back, that's really when I first started binge eating. And it was my first deployment was everything that you expect out of a combat deployment for an infantry guy in Afghanistan. So I was on a platoon cop. There was like 27 of us, a mile and a half from Pakistan, every day going out patrolling. But we would go back and refit every few weeks. We would go back to the big base. And I remember at those refit times, man, I would just go and I would grab I couldn't even tell you how many bags of Doritos, like the fun size.
Hmm.
I would just sit in the bed and eat. It was kind of like my escape a little bit.
Yep.
But that was really my first experience, or I can remember to and think back, man, that was binge eating. Like I was eating
Hmm.
my feel like I was eating to
Hmm.
escape. Now I probably did it my whole life, but at that moment I could kind of think about it.
Yep.
So got back from deployment, still struggled with my weight when I was in the Army. I
Hmm.
got up to 240 pounds at one point, which is outside of the Army's, weight tolerance.
Right.
Um, but you get tested twice a year. So, over the course of a few months, I could put on 30, 35 pounds, but
Wow.
then I would have to get it off.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, so got out of the Army after 7 years. I did 2 deployments to Afghanistan, was getting ready to go back. My wife and I had had our first child at the time. So
Hmm.
being in the infantry, I love the Army. I love everything about it. But at the end of 20 years, I probably would have spent 8 or 9 of them in Afghanistan. So it was time to get out for our
Wow.
family.
Yep.
So got out. And after getting out of the Army, I had gained weight again, except I didn't have that need to get it off. So I got
Hmm.
up to 245 pounds, had stayed there for a few years.
Yep.
Then COVID hit and I put on even more weight. I got up to like 265 pounds. I was buying all new clothes and I thought, okay, I have to make a change and I have to do something different. So
Hmm.
because my whole time in the Army, my weight continued to go up and down. I was, except the difference is that one time I got to 240, but most of the time I was up to like 220, 225, which is heavy when you have to run. I had to
Hmm.
get down to be like 195. So I would do this like 20, 30 pound up and down. And I would always do crash diets.
Hmm.
When it's time to lose weight, I know what to do. I go low carb, high protein, lots of exercise. I knew how to get the weight off. But what I knew is I didn't know how to keep it off forever. So that's kind of where my intermittent fasting story starts. Is I was at 240 for a few years, then COVID hit. The stress of that, was working crazy hours at a job that I did not like, got up to 265 pounds. I was like, all right, I need to do something different.
Hmm. Hmm. What was your discovery? How did you come across fasting?
So I knew about intermittent fasting. I had heard about it. I have been kind of in the fitness, weight loss,
Mhm.
crash dieting world for a long
Yep.
time. But in college, I got into bodybuilding. I did enjoy that. My only problem was I could only stay focused. I probably have ADHD. I know I have ADHD.
Me too,
Um,
probably.
so I can only stay focused on something for a few months at a time. But in college, I liked bodybuilding. I liked physique. There have been times in my life where I've had a really good physique.
Yep.
And it was at those times where I could stay regimented. I had heard about intermittent fasting in college. So well over 10 years ago, I had heard about it, but I was like, there's no way I could do that because if
Mhm.
my body goes 3 hours without getting protein in it, I'm going to wither away to nothing. So it was kind of one of those things. And then when I was in the Army, when I got up to that 240 and I needed to come down, I did intermittent fasting to lose the weight then.
Wow.
The difference is I didn't have a mindset of I need to figure out how I can do this forever. So I
Mm.
did intermittent fasting to get from 240 down to like 205, but then got to my weight and then stopped fasting. I
Right.
stopped doing the thing. So when I was at 265, I was like, okay, I need to lose the weight, but I need to figure out how I can lose the weight and keep it off forever. So that's where I went back to fasting, because that time that I did do it, the reality is when I look back on that time, unlike any of the low carb Weight Watchers, anytime I was doing any of those diets, I knew as I was doing them, I was like, man, I couldn't do this forever, which is why I didn't do them, right? I would do
Mhm.
them, I would lose the weight, and then I would put it back on. But when I looked back at my fasting experience, which at this time was probably, 5 years prior, I was like, you know what? That was pretty sustainable. So I
Mhm.
was like, okay, I'm going to give intermittent fasting another go, but I'm going to approach it with the mindset of I'm going to do it not to lose the weight. I'm going to do it to live healthy and sustainably. Weight loss is going to happen, but then I'll be able to maintain it. So I
Mhm.
lost 60 pounds. I put a little on, take a little off over these last 2 years, but I started 2 years ago and I'm still down. So
That's
it
awesome.
has definitely worked.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Is there different methods of the fasting, intermittent fasting, different methods that you've tried, ones that you've attempted, ones that you prefer over the other?
Yeah. So when I first started, I probably did 18-6 was kind of my go-to, and I did that for a few months just to kind of get in the habit of
Hmm.
fasting. But now I always tell people that, I the reason that fasting works is because it's flexible and
Hmm.
sustainable.
Hmm.
Unlike anything else, unlike keto, low carb, a lot of things, it's like I can do something today, change it tomorrow, but over the period of weeks and months, it stays the same. So I change up my schedule based off of my life.
That's
So I do
awesome.
probably OMAD. I'll do that 1 to 2 days a week. I'll do some 20 hours. I'd say one day a week I do 16. I would probably average 18 hours.
Right.
It's still probably my average, but sometimes I'll throw in some OMAD. Sometimes I'll do some shorter. Sometimes I won't fast. But the flexibility is the reason that I've been able to do it for 2 years.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Did you notice any learning curves with fully implementing fasting as a lifestyle?
Um, let's see. I think probably one of the things that I learned early on was that what I was eating to break my fast and to end my fast kind of affected my hunger levels. So there is
Mm.
obviously a learning curve of like 2 to 3 weeks
Yep.
to get started. You do have to, I tell people you got to muscle through those a little bit.
Yep.
But that's why also why I tell people don't change your diet. When you start, don't try to change your diet. Just
Ah,
focus on the fasting
exactly.
because so again, that's what I did. And I want to eat all healthy. I would love to eat nothing but grass fed beef, organic eggs, and raw vegetable. Like, I do want to eat like that. Now, I'm not there now.
Yep.
But if you were to look at my diet over these last 3 months versus my first 3 months, it's completely different. I am slowly
Yep.
going to completely healthy. Now, it's
Yep.
going to take me years to get there.
Yep.
Uh, so there's those first few periods of those first few weeks where I got hungry, but then I have kind of learned that if I eat protein and fat before I end my fast, I don't have that blood sugar spike and drop off. So I'm able to do those longer fasts. So I'm
That's
very
incredible.
aware of, hey, if I'm going to do a 22, 24-hour fast, I need to eat high fats and proteins, not because I'm doing keto, but because I know it will keep me satiated for a
Yep.
longer period.
Yep. I also wanted to bring up since what you were just talking about. I looked at your first video that you have posted on your YouTube channel about the different your different tips and methods, and I love that second. I think it was number 2, where it was like you edited one of the letters that was on there. I thought that was so clever. So if you wanted to talk about what, just kind of loosely about what it was to kind of flip your method into like that sustainable long-term lifestyle and how that conversion kind of meant for you.
Yeah. So I do this thing called my stair step approach to intermittent
Hmm.
fasting, and
That's
that is,
beautiful.
um, and I am reading now. I'm in the process of reading Atomic Habits because people have recommended me. You got to read
Yep.
Atomic Habits. You
It's a
got to read
great
Atomic
book.
Habits
It's really
because
good.
when I would tell people what I was doing, they're like, "Oh, it sounds like you're doing Atomic Habits." So I'm in the process of reading it now. But essentially, I wanted to make changes that would last forever. And what that means is we use willpower to make a change. To make a
Yep.
habit, it does take willpower.
Yep.
But willpower is a limited resource. And if we stretch it out over trying to do 8 new things, we're going to end up doing none of them.
Yep.
So the first thing I said was, you got to focus on the fasting. Don't change your
Yep.
diet. Because
Yep.
if you try to fast, you try to change your diet, you try to implement a workout routine, you're going to end up not doing all of them, or you'll do them all for a month and then get burnt out.
Yep.
But if you can just focus on the fast until it becomes a legitimate habit, meaning I do it every day, whether or
Yep.
not it takes no willpower
Yep.
because it just happens.
Yep.
Now it's time to do another healthy habit.
Yep.
Okay, so now I'm focusing on exercise.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to exercise every day. I'm going to use a little bit of willpower to exercise. Once I've got that down so that I can exercise, like I'm dressed and ready to go to the gym after you and I get off the phone, and it's
Yep.
nothing I think about. I don't have to force myself to do it. It's just a habit. All
Yep.
right, now here I am 2 years later, and I am just now getting into the healthier eating habit
Yep.
because fasting and exercise now take no willpower. It
Yep.
takes me a little willpower to eat healthy,
Yep.
but until I build the habit, then I'll do it forever.
That's
So,
incredible.
oh, thank you. I I feel like some of it has come with age and wisdom. I
Yep.
got so sick and tired of the crash diets. Like,
Yep.
I have been focused and using my willpower on going slow, which that's
Mhm.
tough too. I'm
Yep.
going to commit to doing this slow. It's an old adage and it's cliche,
Yep.
but when you
Yep.
live it, you know how true it is. Slow and steady wins the race.
That is so true. That is absolutely true. And I resonated with that video so much because that is completely like 100% to the T what I advocate for folks. That was my method when I started at the beginning, when I found, because I used to be in a lifestyle weight loss coach working at chiropractic offices. And I knew the efficacy, I knew the validity of eating ketogenically, but the program, like how you mentioned, it wasn't sustainable. It was a partial meal replacement program that I knew that in segmented time, you could lose the weight. But again, like as you mentioned, there was no long-term sustainability to it. It was, okay, now you reach the end of the weight loss. Now what? Like there was no definitive plan for long-term maintenance. And just like you touched upon so beautifully, that lifestyle implementation of fasting as the lifestyle focus from the beginning, hence, the fasting focus lifestyle for a reason,
Yeah.
having fasting be the focus first and foremost, and letting, once you master that, to progress to the next thing. That beautifully said, beautifully explained. Like that is my lifestyle, my implementation, my advocacy, what I tell folks and let them know from the start. It should be the focus, because it becomes so much easier to go, as you said, to that next step when you are just, that becomes your standard. That's your default setting. And it's beautiful, and it's so true, because that's how we function as humans. It's
Right.
incredible. Absolutely incredible. So I want to also talk about what were tips and things, tricks that you've learned and picked up along your journey?
Yeah. So one of the things that I have always struggled with, and again, I'm not a professional. I can't diagnose
Yep.
whatever the
Yep.
case
Oh
is, but
yeah. We got
I'm
the
sure,
disclaimer.
I'm sure that I have struggled with binge eating. I know that I have struggled with binge
Hmm.
eating. Some of the things I would do is, I would eat and not tell my wife. Like I would sit in the car after fast food. I would eat a ton,
Hmm.
and I would get in this bad cycle. And 10 years ago now, maybe even a little more than that, I did P90X. And for 90 days, I ate clean. Um, I did the P90X workouts. I went from 216 pounds to 180 pounds in 90 days. I
Wow.
mean, I got shredded,
Yep.
but literally, like, I think a week after finishing P90X, I did a half marathon with my little sister,
Hmm.
and we went out to eat later in the day. And I had been eating clean for 90 days. I had some chicken wings.
Hmm.
I was done. So that's when I went from 180 up to 240. I was in the army. I
What?
went on a 5-month binge because I had
Wow.
restricted so hard that it was like, I'm going to eat this, I'm going to eat this. And then it was like, again, it's not meant to be, it's meant to be funny, but it's really kind of serious. In Austin Powers, when he's like, I eat because I'm unhappy and I'm
Yep.
unhappy because I eat, like that was me
Yep.
for 5 or 6 months.
Yep.
So one of
Yep.
the tips or one of the tricks that I did um, with intermittent fasting is I was probably only a week or two in. I feel like I could probably go back on I don't know. I was a week or two into intermittent fasting, and I felt like I wanted Whataburger.
Mm.
If they're from Texas, but
Yep.
luckily there are some in Florida.
There's a few. Yeah.
I love Whataburger. But I was a few weeks into intermittent fasting, and I told myself, all right, because I knew from the onset I want to make this a lifestyle change. To think that I'm never going to eat Whataburger again is unrealistic.
Hmm.
And what I don't want to do is I don't want to eat Whataburger and feel like I have failed, because
Hmm.
it's that feeling of failure that in the past has caused me to continue to eat. Well, you're
Hmm.
a failure. You might as well.
Hmm.
So I was sitting, getting ready to go into the Whataburger or go through the drive-through, and I was like, okay, I'm going to get this Whataburger and I'm going to enjoy it. It's going
Hmm.
to be great. It's going to be good. I love the taste of it. I love Whataburger, but that's fine. I'm going to continue to fast. And I think I fasted through it. So I can't remember. I think I ate the Whataburger probably at around noon, ate the Whataburger, the supersized fries, a milkshake, and then I did a long fast, like kind of following that.
Hmm.
But I ate the Whataburger within the framework of intermittent fasting,
Hmm.
and I didn't have the guilt with it. And I think
Mm,
that was the thing, is telling myself prior to eating something that's off plan that, hey, listen,
mhm.
this is part of life. You're not a failure for eating food that is not healthy.
Oh, that's so beautifully said. The implementation of that balance, that people think that as you are on this journey, that it has to be perfect all the time. And one of the things that I have kind of discovered that beautifully complements exactly what you were just explaining is that verbiage and that behavior that we have, our attachment to food, the way that we think about it and feel about it is, removing that fixture in our mind that it has to be entirely perfect, clean eating all the way. Like, again, from the beginning, thinking that it has to be, the fasting, the working out, the eating clean, keto, whatever method, dietary choices, allowing for these celebratory moments, allowing for these indulgence. And one of the things that I love telling folks about, and I've implemented it at home to my kids, is that there are no good and bad foods. Like, food is just food. It doesn't care. Like, it's
Yeah.
just food. And changing the verbiage instead of from good food and bad food, because that feeds that mental, hamster wheel of verbiage that we've got in our heads, doing it to a sometimes food or an all the time food, and knowing that fasting will help to counteract that balance beautifully. We have to have these indulgent celebratory times because this is our life. Like, we can't
Yeah.
rush it. We can't wish for a quick, hurry up. I want to hurry up and get there, because that's broken diet culture as far as I'm concerned. And to have this lifestyle of fasting work so beautifully with these long-term successes, we have to have these indulgent moments. We have to. And as you were explaining, when you have them, to be as present as possible. And I advocate for folks for this, to do like almost like a weird kind of, especially if you're by yourself, it's a lot less awkward, like to do like this kind of like meditative, and you probably understand, like, to an extent in your own way, of like when you're sitting in the moment, whether you're in your car or at work or at home, and you're by yourself and you're just like, okay, I'm going to have this thing. It's super, like, a super sometimes food, super indulgent, like something I wouldn't normally do. But man, like, take it slow, savor, enjoy it. And I kind of explain it as like having like an experience, loading an experience file in your brain of like,
Right. Because then you can go back to that without actually
bingo,
having the food.
bingo, bingo. Oh, yes, you are so right. You are so right. So I want to talk a little bit more now about, as we're getting close to the end, your successes and what you've achieved with your journey. Remind me again how much you've lost in total and the time span.
So I lost 60 pounds. I think the first 50 came off in about 6 months, and then that next 10 over the course of probably 3 or 4 months,
Hmm.
and have maintained it for about a year and a half.
That's
Put a little
incredible.
bit on through these last holidays, but again, that's part of life, right? It's going
Yep.
to go, it's going to go
Yep.
up, and it's going to go down.
That's
But
incredible.
I have maintained a 50-pound weight loss for 2 years.
That's that's incredible. That's incredible. And I also, because we are connected in the same community with Healthy Wage. And as a side note for folks listening, if you're not familiar with Healthy Wage, Ryan, as well as myself, are Healthy Wage winners. And Ryan, if you wanted to talk a little bit about your experience with Healthy Wage.
Yeah, so I actually learned about Healthy Wage through my job originally. They had like a workplace, like Healthy Wage Challenge. That's where
Mhm.
I learned about Healthy Wage. Um, and I had won at work. Again, this is a few years ago though, so it was
Yeah.
crash dieting, right? So
Yep.
I
Yep.
helped our team
Yep.
when I forget what it was. Like, we probably put in $100 and won $100, whatever it was. But I was like, I think I remember seeing that they do this for individuals, not just for work. So I did
Hmm.
some research on it and was like, okay, I can make a wager. So I think I wagered like $600. So
Yep.
$100 a month for 6 months to lose 50 pounds. Now that helped me to lose it in 6 months. Um, but it wasn't too hard, honestly,
Yep.
because I had a decent amount of weight to lose. Um, so I did the healthy wage. And if I could go back in time, I knew that I was determined. So for
Hmm.
me, it wasn't a wager. I was like, I'm going to lose this weight. This is just going to be a little extra money in my pocket.
That's
So that,
incredible.
that, uh, but it did, I mean, it helped me to jump start it a little bit,
Hmm.
um, and
Yep.
kind of stay on track, keep accountable. I was doing weekly weigh-ins.
That's
It was
awesome.
good.
So you appreciated, did you use the app at all that they have got where you see the little meter going
Oh,
across?
absolutely.
Oh, that was so great.
Absolutely. No, I love the feature of where you are, where you should be.
Yep.
I'll
Yep.
stay a little ahead of the curve. That way I
Yep.
got,
That
by
was so
staying ahead
cool.
of the curve, I was able to indulge through those 6 months,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which was nice.
Did you have to extend your time at all?
I did not.
Okay. All right.
I
Um,
think I think I got there. Now again, in the beginning, I was far ahead of the on
yep.
pace, and then as I got closer, it was like
Oh, like
I
getting
think,
close.
but I think I met my goal because there's like the window of like you have a week to weigh in or whatever it
Yep.
was. I was
Yep.
at the beginning of that. I was able to
That's
weigh
awesome.
in.
Congratulations on that. That's incredible. I actually found Healthy Wage, I think about a week after starting in my intermittent fasting lifestyle back in 2018. And I'm a fact checker, and I'm a review checker. And I'm just like, let me just review, let me make sure this isn't like some scam.
Yeah.
And I was hooked. Once I found that it was legit, like I invested. But along my 2-year journey with my lifestyle, I extended it twice. And I knew that if I didn't extend it, then it would just be like gone. And despite our struggles and journeys and stuff that I explained this to the folks when I met them at in person. It was incredible. It was not for me. It was not a point of if I win, but when I win, because our timeline, as you were saying before, this is our life. This is our investment. We can't hurry. We can't rush it. We have to savor and enjoy each step, each moment, each experience. And to know that our efforts are going to pay off as long as we're consistent, compassionate, respectful, loving, understanding with ourselves, adjective, adjective, adjective. But it's true. We got to be cheesy. We got to enjoy
Yeah.
this ride that we've got, because this is our life. This is our beautiful vessel that we get to live in. So high five, double high five to you, sir. That's incredible. Congratulations.
Right
Healthy
back
Wage
at
has
you.
been such a great asset to my journey. And I was super excited. I'm like, not only is he a faster, but he's a Healthy Wage winner too. Woo!
No,
It's great.
absolutely.
Yeah. So I want to give you one more thing before we adjourn here, Ryan.
Yeah.
I know one of the other reasons why I was excited to connect with you also is your YouTube channel. And as you can see, my area of comfort is podcasting. So Mr. Comfort Level in YouTube, I want you to go ahead and plug and give yourself a little shout out, red carpet promotion here about your YouTube channel if folks are interested in following you along there as well.
Yeah, no. So the YouTube channel is Intermittent Fasting with Ryan, and I think one of my keys to success has been journaling.
Mm.
Now I have been doing that in video journaling. I started on Instagram, and I think that's where you and I met
Yep.
on Instagram.
Yep.
And I did that for about 4 months, and then a friend of mine that I was in the army with, he ran a YouTube channel, and he's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, you should look at showing what you're doing on YouTube as well." So I kind of looked into it, and I started the Intermittent Fasting with Ryan is the name of the YouTube channel. It's Intermittent Fasting with Ryan.
Mhm.
I started that about a year and a half ago, and my first video on there, you saw it. It's kind of
Yep.
my approach. At that point, I had been doing fasting for I think 4 or 5 months at that point, and had already lost 40 or 50 pounds, and kind of shared my philosophy of slow and steady wins the race.
Mm-hmm.
And I have just kind of been journaling my idea. And really, in the last 2 months, the channel is starting to pick up. I think I went from 2,000 subscribers to I'm almost at 9,000 now. Just in the last 2 months, it's really starting to pick up.
That's
But
awesome.
really, I'm sharing my experience, not as a scientist, not as an expert. I couldn't tell you scientifically why intermittent fasting is the best, because the
Mm-hmm.
reality is the best thing you can do is the one you can do long term. But
Yep.
just sharing my experience as a regular guy.
Yep.
So if you want to follow my journey, get some tips on there as well. I kind of share. We just got off of vacation. We did spring break at Universal, like you were talking about,
Yep.
celebrating life. I
Yep.
uploaded everything that I ate while I was on
Oh.
vacation. Now, it wasn't that good. It wasn't that healthy food,
Yep.
but I talk about that in the video, right?
Yep.
This is life.
That's life.
What you do in a week or a month isn't going to affect your overall. But so I kind of upload my progress there, and just kind of started, building a community of people that are committed to slow and steady progress. I mean, even with intermittent fasting, it's not the best. The best is the one that works best for you.
Yep.
It just is flexible. For
Yep.
me, it is the best, and I love sharing my experience, kind of like I talked about at the beginning. I'm excited to talk to you, and I'm excited to share on the YouTube channel because it has affected me so much, and I just kind of, share my experience and my journey there as well.
That's incredible. I wholeheartedly I'm just quietly, silently sitting back here like, yes, yes, that's exactly how it should be. This is exactly the lifestyle, like the way that it should go. Slow and steady wins the race. And for those listening, I will have his YouTube channel link in the show notes. So go ahead and check the show notes for that link there to go ahead and follow him. I'll also link up his Instagram page on there so you can follow him there as well. Great content. And I'm just a lady that figured out the sauce for that intermittent fasting and a fasting lifestyle works for me. Ryan clearly is cut from the same cloth in that respect. And, if you're looking for that additional support, through his channel and the content that he puts out, definitely go ahead and give him a follow, because that's what initially, I love seeing like-minded individuals, and we thrive and grow together. And this is a beautiful community that's only going to get bigger and better as time goes on. So thank you so much, Ryan. This was a really great episode. One of my big things, because you mentioned Austin Powers, and secretly back here, I'm like, well, I love Austin Powers. Like, I'm such a big Austin Powers nerd. Like, I just watched Goldmember the other night, and that was just like,
oh, nice.
I could never get sick of watching that movie. But I'm of the Full House generation, and I'm a big hugger. So I'm giving you a big virtual hug right now. That's kind of my thing. So
right back at you.
#HugLife. And thank you so much, Ryan. This was a really great, and fellow Floridian, fellow healthy wage winner, fellow faster. Great stuff. Thank you guys so much for connecting with us on this week's episode. As always, if you need any additional support, guidance, motivation, direction on your fasting journey, you can absolutely check out Ryan's content. If you need a personalized one-to-one approach, if you're looking to connect with me, hit up thefastingfocuslifestyle.com. I do have booking spots on my calendar as well. As things grow, evolve, get busier, more exciting. This is just a beautiful life and a beautiful ride, and I'm just living it moment to moment, soaking it all up. So thank you guys. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, everybody listening. Big virtual hugs to you all. And as I always say, I believe in you. And I'm sure Ryan will say it too. We believe in you, even if you don't, because this beautiful life, you can make it whatever you want it to be if you want it and want it to work for you. So have a great rest of your day, guys, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. The Fasting Focus Lifestyle Podcast. Copyright 2022. The information given within this podcast is not intended or implied to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please consult your doctor before starting any weight loss method. Thank you.
Hello, Saver. Whether you're saving for that trip to the tropics or saving for an emergency, now is the time to take advantage of Wells Fargo's savings options. Wells Fargo offers savings accounts that can help you save towards your goals. So, what are you saving for? Visit a Wells Fargo branch or wellsfargo.com/save to open a savings account today.
Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.